The Manage and Pay Sales Tax function can be found under the Vendor drop-down menu under Sales Tax or one of the icons representing this function. By selecting the Manage Sales Tax option, the corresponding window that opens will also include the Pay Sales Tax feature. Before we show you how to properly pay your sales tax, we first want to refresh your memory on how sales taxes are tracked by QuickBooks in the first place. In Lesson 4, we discussed how a sales tax item or group is created, and in Lesson 6, we showed you how sales tax was computed and recorded when an invoice, sales receipt, and/or credit memo is created. Again, if we take an example of an invoice, you will note on the bottom right of the form that there is a place to select the appropriate tax item or group, and then this selection will be used to calculate the cumulative sales tax due for any items entered into the body of the invoice that are taxable. As QuickBooks accumulates the sales taxes collected and therefore owed, at some point you will need to remit these taxes since they are not yours. Remember that sales taxes are never revenues when collected and never expenses when paid. The only two accounts that should ever be affected by sales tax are the bank account you deposit them into and the sales tax liability account, which QuickBooks automatically creates when you activate the sales tax function, which is done in preferences that we covered in Lesson 3. So for example, when we click this button, the sales tax preference window opens up. Notice the Yes Radio button needs to be selected for the sales tax function to work in the first place. You can also select a default sales tax item or group that you want to come up if you have not designated for a particular customer job what you want the default to be when you did the setup for these entities. The Assign Sales Tax Codes area allows you to designate the codes to use whether an item is taxable or not, and the bottom portion of this window allows you to indicate whether you want the invoice date that represents accounting for sales tax due on the accrual basis or receipt of payment that represents accounting for sales taxes due on the cash basis. Lastly, you can indicate whether you owe sales taxes monthly, quarterly, or annually so that when you go to pay your sales taxes, it will select the appropriate period by default. Once done with this window, just click OK. The Manage Sales Tax window also allows you to review a couple of different reports that will summarize your sales tax activity over a designated period of time. So for example, if you open up the Sales Tax Liability report, you will see for a period of time selected sales tax by item or group, total sales, non-taxable sales, taxable sales tax rate, tax collected, and sales tax payable owed. Your tax collected and sales tax payable should be the same amount since anything collected should be owed. Unless you were over or under collected and then an adjustment may need to be made, which we will cover later in this session. After you review your report or reports, then it is time to pay your sales tax by clicking on the Pay Sales Tax button. The Pay Sales Tax window in effect represents a type of write check screen just dedicated to paying sales taxes. Just like the Write Checks function, you select the appropriate account that you are going to pay your sales taxes from. You then put in a check date, and you also put through what period you are going to pay the sales taxes which are due, which should come up automatically since QuickBooks knows the last time you paid your sales taxes, and it knows how often you pay based on the preference setting you selected for what type of filer you are in terms of monthly, quarterly, or annually. If you want to put in a check number or reference, such as EFT for an electronic fund transfer type of payment, you can do so in this field. If you want the payment to be printed as a part of a batch, you can check mark the To Be Printed box in the lower left of the screen. In the body of the window, you will see the individual sales tax items and/or groups that sales taxes were collected under for the designated time period. And then, as you select these to be paid, the total amount to be dispersed will appear on the bottom right. There is also a button called Pay All Tax to select all items at once. Your bank balance will also show on the bottom right to indicate if you have enough funds to make this disbursement, which you should, since sales tax collected should never be used to fund any aspect of your business or personal life. Using sales tax monies for any purpose, then submitting them to your sales tax authority is illegal and can land you in a heap of trouble. The state considers such an action stealing, and they can get very tough on violators. Some businesses use a separate sales tax account to keep sales taxes collected to make sure they are not commingled with other company funds and then inadvertently used. If the information is not correct, then you can make an adjustment by selecting the Adjust button. The Sales Tax Adjustment button allows you to put in an adjustment date, an entry number, a class, and then from the vendor list you can select your sales tax vendor you want to associate the adjustment with. Then you need to associate the adjustment with an account in your chart of accounts and select whether you want the adjustment to increase or decrease what is owed. Note, you cannot select sales tax payable as the account, so it has to be something else. Finally, you have to put in an amount and if you want a memo. Once complete, you can click on OK and you will be able to see the adjustment you made and select it to adjust what you end up paying. If you have not been using this module to record paying your sales tax and have been using write checks or enter bills, pay bills, then you have not relieved the sales tax detail that QuickBooks has accumulated, and you will need to make an adjustment to clear out the detail that has already been paid. This is a common error that occurs, and you may want to have your accountant help you with this since it can get tricky and may require an additional journal entry to be posted to get a final correction of your balances once your adjustment has been made.